Casteel. I'm a master gardener here in Tillamook County. We're here today at the Pioneer Museum Rose Garden. We're going to be pruning the roses so that they can bloom beautifully this summer. Roses need pruning several times a year. In the autumn, the late fall, you want to prune the back so the wind doesn't damage them over the winter, because we have pretty strong windstorms. Come springtime, after President's Day approximately, you want to prune them and get them all tidy for the summer season. In the summer season, you can prune them a little bit when you've got flowers blooming and you want to make a bouquet, or if you have some kind of damage or disease that you want to remove from your roses. Now, pruning, there's a number of tools that you might want to use. First, let's talk about some protective gear for you yourself. If you're going to be up and down on the ground, it's nice to have some knee pads. It just protects you from anything that's on the ground that might injure you. It's nice to have a pair of gloves. You know, roses are notorious for having thorns. You want a pair of gloves that's pretty sturdy. These have leather palms. These are like goat skin. That's going to protect your hands from those, and make sure you get a pair that fits your hands. They come in all sizes and all types. Find one you like. And these gloves have nice long wrists so you can protect your arms from the roses. This particular pair fits me pretty well, and I can use it for a while, but I find that I don't like it because of the way it's the fingers are made. If you have particularly delicate skin, you know, if you're on some kind of medication or something, they actually have these nifty things called arm chaps. Stick them in here, get your thumb through them over your gloves to protect your arm quite a ways up from the thorns on the roses. So that's protective gear for yourself. Now let's talk about actual tools. Pruning roses, you're going to need several different tools. You might need several sizes of loppers or pruning shears. Now these are the big ones for pruning those big canes. If you have a particularly old rose, or you have one that's been neglected a while and the canes have gotten really big, you may need some kind of a little saw. It's just a little pruning saw for cutting the bigger branches. They're available, all different prices, but that one works pretty well. Now, the most common tool you're going to be using is a hand pruner. This is one that's mine, and I like it really well. You're going to find on the market all different sizes. This one's a size 6 Velcro. It fits my hand. I use it all the time. This one is a little bigger Fiskars. It's a little too big for my hand. I have to really reach to get that one to work. So I hand this one off to my husband most of the time. One thing you do not want for pruning the live canes is this kind of a pruner. Okay, so this is an Anvil Pruner. You don't want to use this when you're doing roses. It's mainly used for cutting dead wood. So if you're cutting a branch that's dead, even on your rose bush, you can use this. But you don't want to use it on live wood because it tends to crush the branch. So we're going to leave this one aside and use one of this kind. Now, when you want to look at your pruner, it's going to save you a lot of time and effort if you keep your tools sharp. This is a bypass pruner. It's the one I particularly like because it fits my hand. You'll find these in lots of different sizes, but the main thing you need to know is this one works by having one sharp blade and one blade that's simply going to use to hold the branch still. So when you cut, your blade is going to go past the part that holds it. You want to keep it sharp. Only this side is sharp. The other side is just flat, so you'll sharpen this side only. These are a couple of kinds of sharpeners. This one is simply a whetstone. that works just like any other whetstone. It's a little more difficult to use than some other types of sharpeners. This particular sharpener is designed specifically for hand pruners. The sharpening stone is right here, and you just glide it along the sharp side of the pruning blade at the angle that it's already been sharpened. This is a lopper, which is simply a larger version of the bypass pruners. Because it has long handles, it gives you a lot more leverage to cut those large branches. Now, if you have a branch that's too big for this to cut, you can use a small pruning saw like this. A pruning saw has pretty aggressive teeth on it, and it's small, so it can get into those small places. As you probably know, roses are really sensitive to disease. You get rust, you get black spot, you get all kinds of stuff, and it can be passed from one bush to another by your pruners. So you want to keep your pruners clean and sterilized. A couple different ways you can do it. You can just use some Lysol. Give them a good spray. This is actually a pesticide. It kills bacteria and viruses. You can use just some isopropyl alcohol, clean off your blades, a bit of paper towel or something, and just clean them up that way. Or if you want to, you can just use a disinfecting wipe. All of these ways work really well. You want to disinfect your blade at the very least between each bush. You know, the recommended is between each cut. I'm sorry, I can't do it that often. But if you do it at least between each bush, you're going to reduce the amount of disease you spread from one place to another. Okay, so now that you know about your tools, let's grab some gloves and we'll go over to a bush and start pruning. Here's a typical rose bush that's been at least neglected for a year, maybe a little longer than that. When you're looking at pruning it, you kind of have to get in an idea of what you want to have happen with this rose bush. This one is a pretty big rose, so there's going to be a lot of pruning to be done on it. The first thing you need to think about is, well, what kind of rose is this and how big should it be? Pretty standard size. I would say this one could probably be about this height. It was apparently wind pruned, just kind of chopped off at the top so it didn't get blown over. And now it needs some tidying up so it can grow and look attractive for the summer season. We need to find what needs to be removed, and there are several things that you can be sure that need to be removed. Obviously, anything that's dead needs to be removed. Anything that's severely damaged or diseased needs to be removed. Some of the things that are really spindly, little skinny things, need to be removed. And then anything that's going towards the center of the bush that's going to impede air circulation needs to be removed for the health of the plant. Everybody knows that fungal diseases are a problem in Tillamook. If you're able to get some wind movement, keep the plant drier, you're going to have a much better chance of keeping your rose bush healthy. Let's kind of dive in here and see what needs to be removed. Well, here's one I know for sure. Okay, this one was growing into the center of the bush. It's also split, damaged, maybe diseased, but that one has to go. There's a lot of branches here in this one spot. You see how they've grown out of this center thing right here. My opinion is that needs to be thinned out. Of this set, this is the best cane right here. So we cut that one off. I'm going to grab the loppers and cut off some of these others. There we go. Okay, one right here is mostly dead, in fact entirely dead. Okay, this one you can see is dead coming down to here. And we've got to figure out which one of these we want to encourage to grow. Each of these little buds here is going to make a branch, and I kind of need to direct the growth. This one, I don't like that one, but I'm going to come right here. So this will form the main branch here. This one will probably grow and produce flowers, but won't be the main branch. Here's another one. I'm going to cut an outside one. And you might note that I don't cut it straight across. Cut it at an angle. What that does is it allows the water to run off. So I'm going to need a saw for one of these canes. It's too big for me to cut with either the loppers or my hand pruners. Quite frankly, I don't remember the last time this thing got sterilized, so I'm going to give it a good spray while I'm at it. You can see here, we've got this branch and this branch. This one's partly dead. Growing right up through the center there. I'm going to cut it off right down here at the bottom. There we go. You'll notice here we've got two great big canes here, really big ones. But it comes up here and it gets all tangled up. You've got a dead branch here. You've got crossing here. It's something of a mess. Now, this section on this cane, there's a lot of branching here that's kind of tangled up, some dead stuff. I think I'm going to get my loppers. I'm just going to lop this off just above this junction here. See what I get. The thing about pruning is sometimes you have to prune and then prune again. But you know, this is where it's different from carpenters. Sometimes it's cut, look once, look twice, maybe cut 2 or 3 times, because you'll find that you can see what's going on if you cut that off. All right, you might want to have a good look at this. See how tangled up that is? You've got bits that's dead and bits that looks a little diseased. So we want to get rid of that. You have to look where your blade's going to go, because I have on occasion cut more than I intended. This is an old cane. Pretty old. But if you look carefully, you'll see that there's a really big cane coming out right down here. A nice, healthy looking one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim up this cane just a little. It's kind of broken at the top here. Chop off that a little bit. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to see if I can cut this off just above where that cane comes out. So this branch looks pretty good. It's just a little tall, and to make the plant shaped better, I'm going to cut it back just a little. And there's a lot of stuff going on here. I'm going to find a node, a place where a leaf used to be, and where a branch or a leaf could come out. And I have to figure out how I want this bush to grow. So there's a node here and here and here and here. I basically want the branches to come on the outside of the plant, and I want to avoid any damage. This one has a damage spot on this side. So I'm looking for a node that's going to come this side and below this damage spot. So I think I'm going to go right down. Can you see this node right here? Actually, let's move down to this next one, right here. There's a nice node there, and it's going to come out away from the branch that's already there. Cut it off about 45 degrees. Should grow out this direction and provide some flowers. So you can see the first cuts on the bush are the ones that are the hardest to make, because you have to kind of decide what shape you want your plant to be. This one has been growing for a long time. I'm going to need my loppers. I want it below all this stuff. Find a node. Here's a nice one. So it may look like I'm just killing this poor bush, but I've been told that you can't kill plants by pruning. I'm not sure that's true, but roses are pretty resilient plants, which is why people tend to grow them. They come back. Here's another dead one that I happen to see. Got that cover off. Make everything easier to see what I'm doing. Quite frankly, I don't know what this green stuff is. It looks like it might be an iris. If it were me, I would dig that out, but this isn't my garden, so I'm not going to do that. You can look here. Some of these branches, or canes is what they're called, are older than others. This one's probably 2-3 years old. It's healthy looking. This one may be 4 or 5 years old, and it's beginning not to look so healthy. Because this doesn't get a lot of care in the summertime, I'm debating whether to cut this all the way off. At this point, I'm going to cut it back just beyond all this branching to a node that could grow out. And I'm going to think about this branch. When I get done with the other parts of it, then I'll make a decision as to whether I want to leave that one or take it off. By the end of April, it'll be full of leaves, and it'll be blooming in early June, by the end of May. Maybe even mid-May, depending on what the weather does. You can see there are quite a few leaves on here, quite a few leaves on that one over there, and they'll start coming out here pretty soon. Now, not everybody prunes the same way. I read an article once that said the less you prune, the more flowers you get the earlier. And that may be true, but you also get generally smaller flowers. And in our climate, it helps to cut out a lot and allow the air circulation. That one off. But I have a nice cane coming up here that is crossing over. So I'm going to be a little bit drastic. I'm going to cut this whole branch off right down here to the base. So there's where the branch was coming up. You notice when I started sawing, it popped right apart. So that one may have been diseased inside, regardless of how nice it looked on top. So I'm glad I made that decision. Here we have, a rose bush that's been pruned pretty well. And it's just noticing we got a couple that are sticking up here. This one's a little higher than I wanted. We'll pop it back down. So it's all about the same height. Here's another one that's kind of sticking up. Let's prune it back a little bit. There we go. So it's all about the same height. So it's going to come up. It's going to have a nice vase shape. These iris will probably die down over the summer. So you can see it's going to have plenty of air circulation in the center. It's got lots of buds that are going to grow out towards the outside part and come up and produce flowers. Because it's been pruned out, it's going to have less disease and it will have sturdier stems. We trimmed off all those little spindly things that when you cut a bouquet, you know, they just kind of fall over in your vase. So this should produce nice flowers and be a healthy plant for the summer. This is a public garden, so we can't do any spraying here. A home garden, people will often use some kind of fungicide to maintain the health of the plant. But today we're mostly talking about pruning. This one's been done.